Love-hate pass catchers.
The gloves.
Let's start with Ja'Marr Chase. Listen, the Commanders, we do this every other segment, but the Commanders, this might shock you, have allowed the most fantasy points to wide receivers.
He's my number one wide receiver this week. You had me at Commanders. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Malik Neighbors all went completely off against Washington. Malik Neighbors 10 for 127 and a touchdown. We don't expect T. Higgins to play in this game as well. So once again, I think Ja'Marr Chase gets the kind of target share that Malik Neighbors did. Mike Evans in week 1, by the way, 5 for 61 and 2 touchdowns, 8 for 83 and a score for Godwin in week 1. No team has allowed more receiving touchdowns to wide receiver through 2 games than my Washington Commanders. Hail the Commanders, hail victory. Ja'Marr Chase is going to just go off. This is like a, here's a better bet than your New York Giants to win the NFC East. 3 touchdowns for Ja'Marr Chase, 2 touchdowns on Monday night on DraftKings, 3 touchdowns. Do a ladder bet.
That's fine.
Do a ladder bet. Huh?
It's not 80-1. That's the beauty of my bet. Pays out more when the Giants
yes,
win.
if
when
you
they
win,
salute
but you're not going to.
And win the division.
This is how they get you. You understand that, right?
I'm just telling you, 80-1, New York Giants. Listen, there has never been a better get-right spot in the history of the Milky Way galaxy than Ja'Marr Chase on Monday Night Football in primetime going up against your Washington Commanders secondary.
1,000%.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's one of those Ja'Marr Chase games where it's 177 yards, 2 touchdowns, lights the world on fire. Yeah, try and buy, if you can trade low for Ja'Marr Chase, if you can flip Tirico for Ja'Marr Chase or something, now is the time.
Yeah.
Brandon Ayuk also looking for a get-right game. It's been a slow start for him since the holdout, but listen, Deebo Samuel's target share out the window in this game, Matthew.
29%.
29%. I mean, it's insane. Now Brandon Ayuk, who's been out on the field, this is really his passing offense.
Played 60% of the snaps in week 1, played 88% of the snaps in week 2, so they're ramping him up. You mentioned no Debo, so that's certainly going to help. He had 5 games last year with 8 or more targets, and so you certainly expect him to get that with Debo out there. He averaged over 20 fantasy points per game in those games, and through 2 games, by the way, the Los Angeles Rams have allowed the most yards and the most touchdowns on deep passes in the NFL. Brock Purdy's going to take a shot or 2 to Brandon Ayuk. I am as a top 10 play this week.
Yeah, Kyler Murray just had a perfect passer rating against the Rams, and Brock Purdy's a better passer than Kyler Murray. So figure that out.
DeVonta Smith makes the love list. No A.J. Brown. DeVonta Smith, his target share went up to 34.5% here, Jay. When A.J. Brown's out, this is DeVonta Smith's offense. It's pretty much the Niners discussion we just had with Ayuk.
Yep. And also a sneaky thing that people wouldn't have expected before the season, but this could be game script friendly to the Eagles passing the ball. They're 2.5-point dogs against the New Orleans Saints, which is kind of insane because the look ahead on this line preseason was Eagles minus 3.5, and now it's Saints minus 2.5 because of how good the Saints have looked. And DeVonta Smith, we'll see about the health of the Saints secondary. That's another factor here, but no, just through volume alone, he has an incredibly high floor and a high ceiling as well in the dome.
Eagles traveling on a short week to New Orleans. Obviously, they played the Monday night game. This game is in New Orleans as well. Since the start of last year, the Saints allow the 5th most yards per game to the slot. Obviously, you've got Lattimore on the outside there. Well, 50% of DeVonta Smith's targets this year have come in the slot, where he's actually more effective. So, credit Kellen Moore, who's moving him around and getting him in space. So, I have him as a top 10 play this week, DeVonta Smith.
Brock Bowers, the top tight end on the love list here. The Panthers have allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to tight ends, Matthew. Brock Bowers looks great with Gardner Minshew right now.
He does. I don't care what the calendar says. It's Brocktober, baby. On the season, he has a 25% target share.
September 19th.
Second, it's Brocktober. Football's 3 inches, and it's Brocktober, Jay. There's only one tight end that has at least 6 receptions in both games this season, and his name is Brock effing Bowers. Panthers, by the way, also allowing the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. Only one team in the NFL has allowed multiple touchdowns to tight ends so far this season, and it is your Carolina Panthers, Jay Croucher. The Carolina Panthers, of course, a favorite team of swinging neighborhood parties everywhere. Keep pounding. Brock Bowers is my tight end 3.
Yeah, no, look, there's a very good chance Brock Bowers ends the season as the number 1 tight end in football. That's very within the range of outcomes.
Yes.
And he was on the hate list for you preseason.
I have fully owned that. I have apologized for that here on national television. I have mentioned that on social media. It's in my column when my love-hate column comes out later today, and Brock Bowers is in there. I copped to it, owned. Yep. Asked and answered. I have full mea culpa on that. Dead wrong. Could not have been more wrong. The kind of wrong that Jay Croucher is about betting a lot of money on the Giants to win the NFC East. It's that level of wrong that I was on Brock Bowers, 1,000%. Totally own it.
I shouldn't say things like this because here's the thing. It's like I think the Giants win the NFC. It's like a 3% chance, and 80-1 is like a 1.2%. So I think it's a good bet. But there's a 97% chance I'm wrong. And that's what you guys are going to focus on.
That's exactly what I'm going to focus on.
Exactly.
And you know who else is going to focus on it? Yeah. Connor's ass cheeks, because there's a 3% chance he's getting a tattoo.
It'd be glorious.
Say about 0.0.
Come on, G-Man. Let's get into Deshaun Watson's
more
race.
reasons to root
Listen,
against the Giants.
I don't know if Kristen would like it, but you know who would like it if this bet does come through and you have to get this tattoo?
Producer Pete?
Yeah, well, Producer Pete and SNY. This could be good for your career.
I don't know if SNY would enjoy this.
Right? We don't know for
Our Jets pre- and post-game analyst has a Giants tattoo on his ass.
Think about the kind of publicity you would get. People would tune in.
Yes, 15 minutes of fame. That's what I need.
For an eternity of Together Blue or whatever the stupid Giants slogan is.
Giants Pride.
Giants Pride. Whatever it is.
That's where I draw the line. I won't get Giants Pride.
That's fine. Fair.
Just to help
I'll allow that. I'll allow that.
Some other pass catchers
Go Big Blue. I think it's what it'll be.
receiving votes.
Go Big Blue.
Jameson Williams, Jackson Smith, and Jigba coming off a massive week. Adam Thielen, now that Andy Dalton is back under center, it's Adam Thielen time. Jordan Whittington, the day 3 rookie for the Rams, and Hunter Henry tonight on Thursday Night Football because, quite frankly, this is who the Patriots throw the ball to.
They really do. I mean, he's got a 50% target share last week, 32% for the season. Hunter Henry does. Patriots lead the NFL in tight end target share through 2 weeks. Just a couple of guys there. Like JSN, the breakout is real. Since last season, Dolphins will have the 4th highest catch rate to the slot. I'm a believer in that. Obviously, we talked about the Arizona-Detroit game, high implied total there. Through 2 games, Arizona allows the 5th highest catch rate to wide receivers. So Jameson Williams, who has a 20% target share in both games this year, not combined, but each game he's had at least a 20% target share. The Adam Thielen one, I want to bring this one up, right? There was one game last year where Andy Dalton started. It was week 3 at Seattle, and he went 11 for 145 and a touchdown. Now, I do think the offense goes through Deontay Johnson with Andy Dalton, but I have a sneaky suspicion. Denny Carter put this out. Our friend Denny put this out on Twitter as well. Sneaky suspicion that Andy Dalton actually lights up the Raiders. Like, I don't know if they win or not, but I think Andy Dalton's going to be a lot better than people think. And maybe just because expectations are so low after Bryce Young, but I think Andy Dalton actually is going to be like low-key a legit QB2 in fantasy. Adam Thielen going to be a part of it. Through 2 weeks, Raiders have allowed the 7th most yards to the slot. And you mentioned Whittington as well. Look, after Cooper Kupp got injured, 62% of his routes from the slot. Whittington, too, he was a preseason favorite as well. And you mentioned this the other day. Kid can block.
He can block, which gets him on the field, which in the Rams offense, if you're on the field, usually good things happen. So keep an eye on Whittington.
And we've talked about the fact that we expect them to be down in this game and having to throw.
Yeah, when Bryce Young got benched, the line on DraftKings for Raiders-Panthers moved from Raiders -7 to Raiders -5.5, which I'm not sure Bryce Young's actively watching the betting odds update, but that would be such a slap to the face. It's like I've been benched from Andy Dalton and the line's moved 1.5 points in Carolina's favor. So that's where they're at the moment.
That's a big move.
Yeah,
that's a big move for a quarterback. Anyway, in a crazy deep super flex league. Last night, I dropped Bo Nix for Andy Dalton. And Scott Fishbowl. Actually, Scott Fishbowl, I did that in my league. Like,
good call.
That's what I think. By the way, Bo Nix immediately got picked up in my league, and I'm just like, that's somebody who hasn't watched Bo Nix play in 2 weeks.
Start Bo Nix.
There's
not even
there.
2 quarterbacks.
Yes, anyway.
There's nothing there. There's something there. I mean, Jalen Hurts and Jaden Daniels are my 2 quarterbacks in that league, so this is just insurance. But I think there's a chance Andy Dalton is top 20 playable at quarterback the rest of the year. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.